Hello and welcome to the Whitley Penn Talks podcast. This is the Whitley Penn Cares series of our podcast where we interview our local nonprofit organizations. Today I'm joined by Paul, better known as Paulie Russell, who is the executive director at the YMCA. If you are in our Fort Worth office or have visited our Fort Worth office, they are literally catty corner to our building. So good morning. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Thank you. So let's just start by talking about the YMCA. You were gracious enough a couple of weeks ago to give Jessica and I a tour, and we learned a lot about the YMCA that I did not know.
Yeah, that's right. It's really great to get to know you and Rising Star Jessica Fair and the whole team here. So one thing that's unique about the Y is that we have this expression, if you know one Y, you know one Y, because no two Ys are alike. Everyone is designed to uniquely meet the needs of their community. So a need in downtown is going to look very different in a low-income or suburban neighborhood. So we have a national oversight with YUSA, who oversee our branding standards and offers forms of support, but really it's these local associations that help meet the needs of the community. So we're with the Metropolitan of Fort Worth is the name of our association. So in our downtown building, we have the downtown branch named after Amon Jr. And so as you saw, it's kind of the first three levels. And then above that, we have our C-suite. And so that's where our CEO, Mike Brown, and everybody offices out of, and they oversee all 15 branches.
I loved the tour of the Y here in downtown because we talked about I live closer to the Benbrook Y, and it looks nothing like the one here in downtown. And you talked about some of those different needs. You know, what Benbrook looks like is so very different than what the downtown area looks like.
Yeah.
I thought that was so special to learn a little bit more about why you do those things so differently.
Yeah, I think I was showing you that, like, even in the lobby, you just experience Fort Worth as a tale of two cities. You have the lowest income people in our community and the wealthiest income people in the same lobby, talking, having coffee. And so that's a really unique sort of relationship to have. And then we have everything in between. We have every identity of person comes to downtown, as opposed to some of the more homogenous Ys. So that's one thing that's really exciting to me. Having lived in Brooklyn for about a decade before I came here, I'm from the area, but coming back here, that was always something that gave me a lot of life. And so we're launching something called Welcoming Week soon. I think it's next week. And where we'll identify, we'll celebrate immigration and diversity of where people came from. We'll have a global map and everybody will put where their people came from and have different foods of the day and just celebrate that diversity that the community downtown has uniquely.
I love that. I think it is such a unique community in downtown, and you're right. While we were there for the tour, you saw all different kinds of people walking through the Y, working out, having a coffee break, all different sorts of things. And it was really great to see just the community space used in such different ways.
Yeah, and the other side of that, the relationships are a big component of why I work there and give me life. The reality is space. You said the word space, and that's the thing that I have to wake up and fall asleep with every day, is because we're in a building that turned 100 years old in April, so that comes with its own issues. And so we're really right now doing some strategic thinking about what do we do with the building? Do we invest in it for the next 100 years, or do we do something else? Do we sell it and build 3 other Ys in communities that need Ys? And that's a really difficult thing. Emotionally, I'm very attached to the building. I like old things, but we're having that conversation right now. So I would say that that's something else that makes downtown unique. Amon Jr., he was a prisoner of war in World War II, and he came back, and him and his father decided people needed healing. And so, they had just survived the plague of 1917, coming back from war. People didn't realize that alcoholism was a disease, or didn't really think anything about mental health. And so they built the Y as a place of healing. And so it continues, the world kind of sounds similar in some ways.
Sounds remarkably similar.
But I think we're better on the whole, but we continue to offer those fundamental sort of elements. The Y has always known that, you have to have that physical component because humans are physical creatures. And that gives you the space to have better mental health, which allows your spirit to be freer.
That's great. So I love that you hit on so many different components of the Y, the physical space, mental health. But can you talk more about what you specifically do at the Y?
Yeah, I guess today I'm on a podcast. First time I've ever done that, so that's my job apparently. No, I oversee 2 direct reports who are over fitness, wellness, aquatics. I run a board of directors. I friend raise out in the community. I try and keep the building intact with prayer and bubblegum sometimes. It's a real challenge. But yeah.
That's great. So how did you first get involved at the YMCA?
So I have a strong history in grassroots organizing and community mobilizing. I was in Peace Corps Kazakhstan for a couple of years. I worked in Sri Lanka to support fishing village communities after a tsunami. And then I worked in New York doing civil rights and human rights work for a small nonprofit. And so I needed to come back to Texas. My family's here. My niece and nephew are growing up without knowing me. So I was back, and I was looking for another grassroots organization, and I found the Y. And most people think about it as a big institution, and it is, but it's also that very decentralized and local sort of model that drew me to it. Plus, I have a little family background in that. So my grandfather was on the board of directors in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he played basketball back in the day when you did the granny shot, I think that's what they call it. And he played for Phillips 66 Petroleum Company before there's the NBA. And then funnily enough, or interestingly, basketball was invented at the Y.
That's cool.
As was volleyball.
Wow. So I love that the family history came into play for you. That feels like a very poetic way to get back involved with an organization. And like you said, they are such different organizations between, for example, the Benbrook versus downtown. So it really feels like it connected lots of different pieces of your life. So can you tell me about the services the organization provides our community?
Yeah, they're widely varied. I'll speak to downtown specifically. One thing that I'm really proud of is the Ella McFadden pre-K program we have. So we service over 100 littles down there, and it's just a really well-run organization. Most of the parents who drop their kids off there every day are scholarshiped. Be a single mom who's working 2 jobs who wouldn't be able to do that without the financial aid. So a lot of our fundraising goes to support that. We don't want there to be economic barriers to having access to our programs. So that's why we do so much fundraising. So we do a lot of childcare, after-school programming, day camp in the summer. One that I'm really excited about is we just installed a world-class recording studio called For All Studios. That's like the number For All. For All is the last 2 words of our mission statement, to build healthy mind, body, and spirit for all. And so it's great, world-class recording artists can come in and, perform at Dickey's at night, and in the morning come workshop their material. But what I'm excited about is the child development piece. So children can go in, cut their track, and then we have editing stations upstairs. Throw it from the studio up to the editing station and can get quite an education out of it. So it's a lot of fun.
I got the honor of seeing a little bit of the studio in the tour, and it was beautiful. And just today, Fort Worth Report highlighted the For All studio. So I think it's a great day to have come in and recorded, even though it is raining here in Fort Worth. So we've talked about so many different things that the YMCA does, and particularly what the downtown YMCA does. Selfishly, because there are so many Whitley Penn employees in our Fort Worth office so close to the downtown Fort Worth Y, How do you think someone employed here working in the Frost Tower can connect with the downtown Y?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was talking to Mike and Diana about that. There's a lot of ways to connect. The one I'll share with you that coming back from COVID has been a real struggle. To get staffing in place has just been really tough, but we have it in place now. So our fundamentals are good, but now we're going to build what we're offering and we're looking through the lens of service. So my background is a lifetime of service. So I want to create opportunities for downtown employees to be able to come in and give a half day or a full day of labor, and to have something like tangible, a product at the end of it that they can be proud of. So we work with different organizations like Clean Up USA, where we make what's called blessing bags. So all Whitley Penn's employees would be lined up in assembly line style. The first person would have their bag, and then they drop their chips in it, pass it to the next person. They drop their soda in there, or whatever it is that's going in the blessing bag. And then by the end of it, you've had all the conversation, we've listened to the music, we've bonded and everything, but then we have product to show for our service, and I think that that's so important. There's a disconnect from service, and I think that people really want to do it. And I know that your company, the Whitley Penn, really supports that also. But people don't know what to do, and it's got to be something convenient and easy enough that you don't have to really prepare for it. You just show up and do the work. And so we're moving into that kind of model called Days of Service. And so we're going to be offering different companies like opportunities to come in for an hour or a day to serve not just the Y, but other organizations that we're close with, the Parenting Center, CASA, organizations like this.
I think that's such a great point, because we do have the annual civic time we're allowed to give each year, and so many employees maybe have a hard time finding an organization they're passionate about, but because y'all touch so many different facets of life, you're probably particularly appealing to volunteers. So this is a plug for our Fort Worth office. If you haven't gotten your volunteer hours in and are looking for a good fit, the Y could be a great fit, and you can email me or Kieran, and we'd be happy to connect you with Polly so you can get started on that journey. In addition to that, I know we have several employees who go work out at the Y, maybe on a break, or who maybe drop their kiddos off at the Ella McFadden Center too. So I think it's just great that there's so many different ways that we can partner together and really help the community grow. So we've talked about the initiative. I think the For All recording studio is probably the most exciting one. But is there anything you're excited about for 2025?
Yeah, so much. Like these great days of service is like very exciting to me. I just want to see so much activity and like bringing people together. And so we're starting small this year. We plan on going pretty big next year. We're expanding our day camp in the summer, so that's exciting. And we're also making sure they have really intentional programming for families. So we're opening up our Y Playhouse hours, and that's just, you can drop your kids off for 2 hours and go work out, have a cup of coffee, do nothing, just take a break from that child for just a little bit. And so in that, we're adding more group exercise classes to support that. So I think that family programming might be the thing that I'm most excited about internally.
I loved when you were giving the tour how we talked about the space maybe getting used heavily before work, during the lunch hour, and after work, and just the creative ways y'all are trying to use the space and honor the space that you've had for 100 years in different ways. And that's a really cool thing, to be able to maybe drop a kiddo off for a little bit. You joked about maybe answering some emails or just getting that workout in for the day. So we've talked about the initiative, I think, of volunteering. Are there any other initiatives you want to share with the Whitley Penn podcast crew?
Well, you could connect us to schools in the area. We have so much going on that if you have a way of relaying information, so we have evening programming, morning programming. So if you have a way to get message out about what we're doing, that would be super helpful. And you can always go to the website, ymcafw.org, and scroll down to the bottom, click on volunteer. it's a little bit of a process. You have to watch a video because we do have a school in the building, so we have to have child safety standards that are really strong. But get into the volunteer system so we can connect with you and let you know about different projects that you might want to participate in.
I love that. I think you'll be seeing several volunteers come through the doors. So we've talked about how to get more involved. You've shared with us the website. Is there any last item you want to share with us before we head out?
I just really am excited to be here. I mean, everybody I've met from Whitley Penn has been nothing but gracious and like very service-minded and friendly. So it's just like, it feels like a really good company that you guys are really investing in the whole well-being of your employees. So thanks for being great neighbors and great partners.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Whitley Penn Cares podcast. For those of you who listened, I would love to encourage you to share this with a friend, a family member. If you're a parent of a young student in the area and want to get your school more connected with the Downtown Y, you can share this podcast. And if you have any other local organizations you'd like featured on this podcast, please let us know. And we're so glad that you joined us today.